It's 6 p.m. Monday night, and it can only mean one thing. Morecambe and Wise, Laurel and Hardy, hitting your screens, talking all things golf. A huge weekend for young Charlie Hull, getting a win under her belt. First time in 2 years. Works with Kate, our S&C girl here. Well, monstrous drives. Fantastic shout out by Henny and Co on Sky Sports for Kate. And deservedly so. They've worked hard. Charlie was back in here on the Monday or Sunday after she won on the Saturday, and again this morning. Just really sort of frame where you think Charlie could go from here.
Well, I think I was surprised that it's been 2 years for the win, because she's been knocking on the door in the big tournaments, and I think this last week she just stamped her authority on the tournament, and I think that's a key thing, because that's basically saying you've got to come beat me because I'm going to beat the rest of you. And I think that just the way she finished off the second round, birding 5 out of the last 7, and then just took it away from him on Saturday. I think that was a real statement win for me.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, very impressive.
Very similar to the way I tended to finish. Only I used to do 5 bogeys in my last 5 bogeys in the last 6 holes. So as per usual, we've got our discs here, taking all of your questions. James behind the scenes, and we've got our new fitter going to be coming on a little bit later. He's sipping a cup of tea. He doesn't know that.
He's sat there all comfortable.
But
doesn't
he's going to maybe do a little guest appearance. So stay tuned for that. You might need subtitles. He's got a bit of an accent, but it'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine.
It's all right, Dad. He's still employed. Good first day, by the way.
We're going to crack straight on with the questions, because they pile up during the night. So do get them in nice and early so that we can get all of your questions answered. If it's your first time watching us on a Monday evening, Simon does all the hitting, I do all the asking, and if you've got any questions on golf coaching or equipment, do fire them over. As I say, we hit and try anything you want us to do. But if Gary, you're watching, we're not doing any press-ups this evening. So, BMC112, hi guys, hope you're well. Is there any correlation between iron shaft weight and guys who are more steep into the ball as opposed to pickers? Do you see any tendencies there?
Not necessarily in shaft weight, although chances are if you're steep into it, then you're pulling down on the club, and what you generally need is the more you pull down on the club and put down, if you haven't got much weight, then you can kind of stand the shaft up a little bit and lose the club head. You want the club to come down into plane, every player's got their own plane, but you want the club to find that plane. And so if you're steeper, generally need a bit of weight in the bottom end or the club to pull down. The shallower you are, the more likely to be more rotation you are, and probably erring slightly lighter, maybe slightly higher balance point. So maybe more kind of slightly heavier, slightly more tip balance for a more downward pull.
Love it. Can't be a downward pull. Alistair Cuthbertson.
Sounds like a yoga move.
It does. Inner wedge fitting. This is someone's dad. Inner wedge fitting. What launch are you looking for on full shots? 50% of the States loft.
Yeah. So I mean, certainly on partial swings for wedges, ideally half the stated loft of the club or the measured loft of the club is ideal. Generally on a fuller swing, you're likely to get a slightly stronger delivery because you're making a bigger move and turning in front of it. You may well cover it a bit more. A lot of players go a little higher for the shorter swings because the body stalls out and then they flip underneath. But ideally, half the loft is a good baseline for that.
Greg Sweet asks, hi guys. Greg here, watching from New Zealand. Wow, welcome from New Zealand.
Good morning.
Yes, love the content. Just wondering, in my backswing, I have a big across the line overswing. I'm trying hard to get rid of it. Any tips to try and stop this? Absolutely. Let's give you a little tip.
Very kind not to mention the rugby either.
Yeah. I'm not much of a rugby fan, but I assume we got pumped by the New
Zealanders.
No,
2 points. 2 points. Missed a drop goal and a penalty at the end.
Really? When was that?
Saturday.
Were you watching, Greg? Were you watching? I'm sure you were. So cross the line. Cross the line is predominantly coming from an internal rotation of the right forearm. It can come from a few factors. The first one, and the biggest one, when golfers have tried to work the path inside out because they believe this is the way to hit a draw, invariably you end up getting too deep too early, which then creates a lift up. And this right hand being on top of the shaft at the top of your backswing makes you feel like you've got a square club face, because when you get that club across the line, as you pull it down into strike, the club is invariably opening up as you're trying to drive the handle out to the right. And if you've watched enough of my content, I think that kind of swing direction is garbage. So the first thing that you might want to do is make sure that your right hand is a bit more on top, so that your palm is facing a little bit more to the ground. And the reason why you might want to do that is because it's going to help with a little bit more external rotation in your backswing. But of course, if your left hand is weak as well, that's going to accentuate a weaker face. So make sure that your left hand's in good situ. You can check out my grip series playlist on my channel for that, which will give you pinpoint accuracy on how to put the hands on the golf club. So if your grip is in the right manner, all of a sudden you then want to start to feel the change of weight in the head to the handle. And a great way of doing that is lift the golf club up in front of you. And as you get to the upper reach, you want to start to feel how the club head is going to fall to the right. And so now lift the club up in front of you, let it fall to the right, and then make a backswing. And then all of a sudden, you start to feel how that club is a little bit more right of the handle at the top of your backswing. I have just released a video on that exact problem that you have described, almost on cue, Simon.
Yeah,
so go check out my video that I released today. It's called The Moment of Truth in Transition, or at the top of your backswing. So go check that out. But there's a couple of reasons why you might do it, and actually a remedy. Hope that helps. Hope that helps. Tony C. No. Guy Harrison, I've done it already, and we're only 3 messages in. Evening, gents. Long-time fan and viewer, would be really interested to get a quick summary of how the full bag fit works and whether best on one day or split over 2. Good question.
So, I mean, it's a long session. So if you are in a situation where you can split it, I think that ideally gives the best results, because, yeah, it can end up being a lot of hits. But we generally would look at, even if you split it, I'd look at irons and wedges first, or certainly the irons first. So we'd start off, we'd run through the spec of your existing setup. So look at lengths, what components there are, lengths, loft, lie, balance, so swing weight, because that gives us the symptoms of your set, and that tells me, or any of the fitters, what your clubs are promoting in their raw state. So they could be, like a chap I had in earlier, had much longer than standard, very light graphite shaft, very heavy grip. Actually, the grip was heavier than the shaft. So we straight away know what the clubs are going to promote in terms of how they move. So the fact that he was flipping the toe through, there's very little weight in the club head proportionally, so you can't use that in the swing. So we know we need to give him more weight in the shaft. So that helps to kind of build a picture of direction of travel in terms of setup. And then really through getting data with your existing clubs, and this tracks across any part of the bag, getting data with your existing clubs to get a benchmark of performance. We can then say, this is why you're seeing what you're seeing, and this is the data that you're seeing on course, and why. But that gives us then the start point to dynamically test with the different shaft and head options to give you reasons for and the data to prove what the best move forward is. And we'd start with irons, then go driver, down to the longest iron. If we're doing it all in one go, I'd finish with the wedges. Or you can do irons and wedges one day, driver, fairways, hybrid / driving iron / sort of bridging point to the longest iron second day.
So for those guys and girls out there that haven't necessarily seen a lot of our content, what separates us apart from a high street fitter, let's say, or club fitter?
Yeah, I think one, you've got people who are very, very experienced in what they do. All we do all day, every day is fit. Whereas, most of the places you go, it's going to be part-time what they do. But we're looking particularly, and this marks us out, I think, across industry, at how the golfer moves and why the clubs need to be set up a certain way to complement how you move. Your club speed, your path, your delivery is all a function of, whether you're left hand playing right hand or whether you've got injuries. It's a function of how your physicality operates. So you want the clubs to complement that. If they don't work with you, it's like banging your head against a brick wall. So we're looking very much at why a certain weight and balance suits how you move. How does that help you deliver the club consistently? Because if most people will look at flex, bend profiles, kick points, say, oh, you swing it at X speed, you need Y shaft. It doesn't work like that. If it did, Patrick Cantlay would not be in a 115 gram shaft, or Matt Kuchar would not be in a graphite shaft. Bryson wouldn't be in a graphite shaft. So even though it is brutally stiff. So you've got to get the clubs working with you. That then allows you to physically give your best to the swing time and time and time again, and get repeatability and consistency.
And of course, we build on site as well, right?
Site, yeah.
Which again is quite unique, isn't it? In terms of if there's some issue with a spec, the builder can come out and speak to the fitter as well.
And the level of detail that allows us to go into, we know everything's calibrated every morning through each of the fitting bays, the workshops, the loft line machines, swing weight scales. We know that the spec that we produce in the fitting bay is built that way in the workshop, and the skill of the guys in the workshop allows us to fit to really fine details, 0.1, 0.2 of a swing weight point, because it makes a difference.
Very much so. Tony C, I have had an iron fitting. When moving to a wood fitting, should I find the max distance and then fill in the clubs in between, or gradually move up the bag and get the more lofted woods first?
I would generally get the maximum distance first, because that sets your top line. Once you know your top line and then your longest iron, you can then graduate back and look at the balance of shot types and distances and fill in the blanks from there. Because without knowing what your top line is, how do you know that you're gapping correctly and consistently and giving yourself the best job rolls for each bit of the bag? So always top line and then work your way back to the irons.
Nice to see the questions coming in quickly. Fantastic. Kevin Phillips, hi guys, I'm playing 105 Axiom in my irons. What weight might best fit in my wedges?
So I would generally look at either parity in weight, but a lot of the time roughly 10 grams heavier, roughly, as a real kind of broad line for that. So the Axiom's having a little bit of tip balance. They don't do a 115, 120, they go up to 125, which could be a bit dead. So you'd probably be looking at something like either a high rev 115 KBS or one of the 610s, Modus 115. Those would be good start points for a wedge shaft to complement the Axioms. Tom
Brisbane, evening guys. This is over on my channel. Good evening, Tom. Nice to have you with us. Johnny Four Fingers. How stable, gotta love Johnny Four Fingers. How stable should the lower body be? I've always over-rotated the lower body too much. Dead arms, even use knee bend to rotate the hips. Should the lower body feel more stable and the upper body rotate? No, I think there should be polarity in both. You really want to feel like your upper body and lower body are moving in harmony. There's been, for so many years, this belief that we hold one back and one moves against the other. The spine is not a torsion bar. It is not there to be loaded. So the more freedom that you can feel with both upper and lower body, the better. And as far as hip rotation goes, leg length encourages hip rotation. Leg flexion doesn't encourage hip rotation. Leg flexion actually stalls out hip rotation. So you might want to think about lengthening legs rather than flexing them. So that would be a way to go. I love Turtle. Evening. Sorry I'm late. You are welcome. But where have you been?
It's been in his shell.
Been swinging the broom and lost track of time. Thoughts on ZNE wedge shafts? Thanks.
So ZNE wedge shafts, they're made by Breakthrough Golf Tech, BGT. They're interesting beasts. So the principle being stiffer means less dispersion, a bit of a shorter shots. They're okay for the shorter shots. They tend to swing quite tip heavy, but they are stout. The problem is you can lose a lot of feel with them. So we've tended to see them less good for fuller swings because of that weight positioning. But stable, good for quite repetitive and for shorter shots if you need balance in the bottom end. But they're also quite dear. So a bit like the stability putter shafts, it's the same principle as that.
Chris Burgess, what was his nickname?
Is that the Yorkshire Blade?
Yeah, I forgot what it was. But tonight he hasn't said the Yorkshire Blade. He's just initialed it.
He doesn't need to anymore, does he?
He's just initialed it TYB.
Bring your own.
I love that. BYO. Yeah. All right.
The man doesn't need the pseudonym afterwards.
Hi guys, been away but back. Finally plumbed for the Cobra MB 3 to pitching wedge, 5 to 3 iron. I can feel myself tightening up and swing shortening and getting quick. What can I do? Try to stop it, but meh. Well, I would just go with a lighter grip, first of all. And
pressure.
Lighter grip pressure. I'd go with that first, but I would first, if you're getting shorter and tighter, that normally means you're trying to get the toe over the heel. So I would look at why your ball is starting to have more curvature as you're getting deeper into the irons. Short, tight swings, normally, as I say, are trying to get the club face back on the golf ball. So I would look to fix the bend, and then I would start to then think about how you can lengthen up your golf swing. But your lengthening up of your golf swing will normally come from the fact that you fix the bend. That would be the best way to go. Hope that helps. Let's move down again because we've got all these messages. Sorry.
Do you want me to take one?
No, Paul, no, you answer. You do the answering. I do the asking. Paul, that's the way we operate, Simon. You should know that. Paul Erasmus. Hi guys, bless you. Equipment query: is there a reason I hit a traditional blade, Mura MB101, with a lower launch angle than a delofted by 2 degrees T150? Swing and swing weight are the same. Thanks.
So the blade, the MB, the centre of mass in the head sits higher up. So most of the cavities now, the Titleist, the T150 has high density tungsten in the bottom of the head. So that sets the centre of gravity lower, which kicks launch angle up a bit more. So a less forgiving head, where the mass sits higher up the face and nearer the face, creates a lower launch but a higher spin because of the gearing. Because essentially, if the mass is higher, you catch it below the CG line, and it kind of delofts a little bit, but that pulls the spin on. And then if you've got a very low weighted head, then you're catching it above the CG, and it launches it higher but spins it a bit less. So it's just that.
Anne Evans asks, hi gents, I'm left-handed but have always played golf right-handed. Any tips? Anne, let us know what your problems are and we'll give you a tip on it. That could be a long answer, Anne. So yeah, dial it in, let us know what you're struggling with and we'll gladly help. Stephen has asked, Hogan, Stephen says, Stephen here, enthusiastic follower, reference the strong left-hand grip, right-hand grip. Sorry, right-handed golf, strong left hand. Hogan, weak grip to take hook and left side out is the downswing forward as. Hogan's laying of reference, strong grip, hook, thanks. I'm not quite understanding what the question is in there because it was over 3 or 4 questions. So do message us back, pop it down in one question and I'll gladly answer it for you. Sorry, it all sounded a bit...
Although on one planet it probably sounded like it made sense.
Yeah, R2D2.
Sounds like the Muppets.
Chris S. Hi guys, question from last week. Can you compare the Callaway Apex 24 CB versus the Mizuno 241 with a Project X IO 6.5?
Yes,
does that make sense?
Yep.
Very good. Well, Simon is off away, rounding up the goods. Ali Nerd, hi Stu, good evening. What's the best way to contact you booking some lessons? I've tried text and email, but no joy. Really? Perhaps I'm using the wrong details. Normally get back within 24 hours if I can, but in every video I've ever done, in the description below, there is a link to my online diary, or just go to precisiongolf.co.uk, click up the top in the banner in coaching, you'll see a drop down and you can place a booking right there and you'll get up my online diary so you can find me there, or drop me an email on scartwrightgolf@gmail.com and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Stephen Crossley is back. Try to be clearer. Sorry, strong grip to hook reference. Hogan weak with downswing, laying off against shoulder forward down. Still not understanding that, unfortunately. Try to be clearer. Sorry, strong grip to hook.
Yeah. So Hogan hated the hooks, went weak grip.
Yeah. With downswing, laying off against shoulder forward down.
So I think when we went that way, then laid it off to try to work across and anti-left, basically anti-left as much as possible.
I mean, if you're referencing Hogan's weak grip to take a hook out, look, the last thing I want to do is chastise Mr. Hogan. I mean, a swing before his time, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think what he wrote in his book, he necessarily did. I think he was so far ahead of his time that I think he's thrown a few curveballs out there, is my honest appraisal. But also, what Hogan necessarily felt and did might not necessarily be what tallied up. So when I get questions, and you've probably heard it yourself, when you get questions about Hogan, it's like, well, Hogan did this, so everything else is inferior because of how well he swung it and that kind of thing. Look, if the guy felt comfortable with a weaker grip, they didn't hook it, that's great. But there's enough golfers in the world that hook the night and day out of it because they got a weak hold. And there are loads of golfers that have got a hook grip that fade the night and day out of it. So you can't just lean on Hogan's reputation and lean on Hogan's swing to say, well, Hogan had a weak grip to take a hook out. That's just what he felt. Whereas if you said to Paul Azinger, oh, don't grip it that strong, Paul, because you'll hook it. But if you've seen Paul Azinger, and he was quite tidy, it was wickedly strong, and he used to just hold everything off. So unfortunately, the sweeping statements of this game don't really work because you're dealing with a lever, and that lever is loading and unloading really quickly. And what a golfer feels in the nuance of their game, as we know, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees can be a big difference between seeing a ball bend a long way left or a long way right or hitting it straight. So it's just not that clear cut. So you can't say strong grip hook, weak grip fade. Just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But Hogan put it in his book. People lean on that, and that's the conversation. But I'm not going to say that Hogan had it wrong. He worked very well for him. So that's really where I would answer that question for you.
All right.
Yeah. We're testing.
MP241. I mean, as classic a blade as you're going to get. Beautiful, thick, thin, clean top line, neat club head.
Delicious.
Project 60. More of a man shaft than I use, but let's give it a go. First swing of the day.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've never stood in this bay on a Monday Night Live, and that's been your first swing of the day. Is that really
Until today? Until today, I normally have a couple. Just, well, I'm a proud man. So a little bit thin, but it's. I mean, there's as regards sort of club head and what it does. This is going to give you nothing back from a forgiveness point of view. But it's going to be neutral launch, mid spin. It's just going to feel lovely if you're someone who likes that kind of softer sound and feel off the club head. And the mass is up a little bit in the middle behind the strike point. Very, very neutral mid spin head because of the bigger blade. And pertinent to the question earlier, a blade will spin it more than most other heads because the centre of mass is higher.
While you're doing that, MY asks, hi gents, love your work. Thank you, MY. Is it easy to bend a ping I210 lower irons? Want to get them flatter, red dot to green dot?
Yep. Flatter is easy because you can hang off it. But yeah.
I mean, always seeing Mark hanging off a couple of club shafts.
Yeah, they're no problem at all to bend. Yeah, no, I210s are no problem at all. So Apex CB, there's a little bit of movement of the mass heel and toe, but again, it's still very much a blade style head. The Titleist CB, the Apex CB, Cobra CB are basically still a blade. And there's really not a lot of margin. There's a little bit more mass down the bottom end, but they're still pretty much blade-like. A very similar looking head. Struck that a little bit cleaner, but very similar launch. As we described earlier, it's a slightly lower centre of gravity. It's a little bit less spin, 200-300 revs less spin. And as a result, that was a bit of a better swing as well. Flight's a little bit more efficient. So if you're looking to bring the top of the flight down a fraction in terms of spin versus a blade, then a CB head, I'll do one more to go, will do that very slightly, but it won't change the launch angle. You've got to go tungsten in the sole to make the launch angle go up. But a couple of hundred revs difference on spin. Technically a hair more forgiving, but still a nice, solid, classic essentially one-piece construction. Good head, the CB actually.
Just to let you know, Simon, tonight is going to be one of the nights where we are going to have to work really hard with these. It doesn't mean shorter answers, but I just think I feel like we're being worked hard this evening. I love it. I love it.
Great
love
stuff.
It. Love
Flies through when it's like that.
Absolutely.
We haven't even got Jack on yet.
No, I know. Well, let's hope he's
sat there looking rather too comfortable. Right?
Yeah. So we've got a question from Richard Skinner. Hi, Stuart. Can you provide instruction on how to stop early extension with irons? Absolutely. So early extension.
There was a great phrase that I probably can't say on here this evening that someone said about early extension. It had something to do with a goat.
What's that? Humping a goat?
That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So humping a goat. Right. So early extension. You've got two problems with early extension. First of all, early extension is making the shaft do this, right? So you're making it stand up. That's pointing the loft more right. So first of all, that's probably come about from the fact that you're trying to swing from the inside and pushing the path out to the right. That's number one. Because the more you push the path out to the right, and if you haven't seen my broom videos, it will really display where the face is pointing. So first of all, you've got to make sure that the ball has got some sort of bend to the left, however you go about doing that. The second problem that you've got is that when you actually pull yourself more in posture, what you're actually doing is taking the circle of the golf swing from a stood up circle to a more of an angular circle. Because when you get yourself more in posture, the angle of the shaft is going to be more angular. Now, the problem with that is that you're trying to move the handle closer to the floor and at the same time lift the club head up off the floor. Because most golfers that early extend are now very used to unloading the club toe down. That is a real problem. So the best drill to conquer that is to not get yourself a beautiful chair. You want to get yourself a club shaft and whack it in the ground with nothing on top of it. And then what you want to do is put the club head and the handle at the same height. Swing the golf club around, and as you're swinging the golf club around, what's happening is that head is trying to pull itself to the core of the earth, and it's trying to elevate the handle a la your early extension, because the early extension is really the symptom. Because if you're standing the shaft up, the head is coming back towards you and pulling it away from the ball. So we're trying to push the handle down and get the club head out. To do that, you've got to be able to support the club head through strike, which means more pressure on the shaft to lift the head up. Once you can make that handle return lower than the height of the golf club in the ground and make the club head swing above it, all of a sudden you will feel more pressure in the handle to keep the club head up. At that point, you can now go back into posture and now feel exactly the same thing. Feel like you can apply pressure on the handle, make the golf club swing, and now you'll feel like you can get more tipped over the golf ball in posture and not early extend. That's how you've got to deal with your levers through strike to change your early extension. The trouble with that is that if your face now makes the ball go off over there, you're going to have a problem, because you're going to want to get back inside it and loop the toe over it. So you've got to find the root cause of why your face is open. Find that, apply that drill. It's on my channel, loads of early extension stuff, but that will give you a very different feeling of how the head and the handle are operating through strike and help your extension. Sorry, elaborate answer, but I felt it was necessary.
Nothing less.
Yeah, well, exactly. Very much like yourself. So, sorry?
It's 7 o'clock already. Yeah.
I know. Sorry about that. These questions.
Episode 2.
We don't do quick tips here. John Kelly. Hi, lads. Using a white Titleist PV1X golf ball. Is there any truth that the yellow ball goes further? Regards, John Kelly.
No. There's a slightly different feel out of it because the paint's marginally different, but no. No truth. If there was, every torper out there would be using a yellow Pro V1X.
Greg Sweet comes back. Thanks for that. Also, I'm English and I feel your pain about the rugby. That was a chap from New Zealand. Yeah. Richard Skinner.
I feel sorry for you living over there then.
Yes. Richard Skinner. Hi, Stuart. I'm playing Royal St George's and Prince's next week. Any advice on how to play short chips on hard fairways? Stand the shaft up, get the toe in the ground, it won't dig. That'll be a nice simple way to get any problems out of hitting some iffy chip shots.
Well, they won't be that hard at the moment.
No,
so,
exactly, yeah.
Great courses.
Louis Pounds, or Lewis Pounds. Hi guys, looking for your advice. I realise it's likely my swing error, but in the meantime, can you recommend irons that get the ball up in the air with more spin?
Okay, so I'm straight out the gate, T100 Titleist and Ping I230. Those are two more kind of players' end heads. I say blades will spin it more, but not everyone wants to play a blade. The Cobra the King Tour head is pretty good as well for that. For something that's a bit more forgiving, Mizuno, the JPX 925 high launch, that gives some forgiveness. That really kicks it up in the air as well for something that's more forgiving.
Very good. Norwegian Warhound is in. Yeah. Great name. Still wins.
I still feel like I need to walk on here with an Asterix and Obelix kind of hat with the tassels hanging down.
Stu,
axe.
What type of practice would you recommend over the winter with the launch monitor being the only option? I take plenty of full swings but want to mix it up. Practice with your short shots, controlling the dynamic loft at strike. Gain control of that, however you do it, gain control of that, which will then make the ability to control the speed to make the ball go the same distance each time. A differential in loft at short shots is essentially going to make the ball either go too far or too short. So try to find a way of controlling your loft angle down through strike and then modulate the distances, and that'll be a great way to break it up in the practice, but that's a great way to work on short game.
Things like the combined test on TrackMan give you distances that you're not just practicing the same thing over and over again. That kind of thing is not a bad option either.
Hi Stu, struggle to turn correctly in the backswing, resulting in a sway in the hips. Tips would be greatly appreciated. A very simple drill for you. We've all been taught, or in the past, to, as we make a backswing, to transfer our weight into our right side. We can create force in this right foot, weight in this right foot in two ways. We can shift weight across, or we can push force into the ground. If you're on a pressure mat, that would read the same thing in a heartbeat. So what we want you to try to feel is we actually use the right foot to push your body to the left as you make a backswing. So put your feet together, take your golf club on the ground, make a backswing. As I make a backswing, I'm going to step to the left. And as I step to the left, what you'll feel is that right hip tuck underneath you, which will start to give you more rotation. And that should free up your backswing, free up your chest, and get your arms a little bit more behind you and around the golf ball. And therefore, if you've got a great grip, that will work. If you've got a grip that is producing a face that's open, that will make you worse. There will be a reason for being short in turn, but if you don't have a good face angle, you'll be in a bit of bother. So make sure the grip's right. Well, I've done a little bit of line dancing. So
We don't want Craig Revel Horde judging you, do we?
7. Oh no, that's Len Goodman. All right. Oh, don't forget, Friday the 20th of December, we're doing a live show in the studio. Email us in Stuart at precisiongolf.co.uk. Email us in to book your place. Got room for plenty of people. We've already got plenty of people coming down. Be tea and nibbles and all sorts of jolly japes. 2-hour show as well, and you can take Jack's seat that he's now occupying.
He's looking very comfortable.
He is looking very comfortable. Daniel Winterbottom. Hi gents, I was just wondering if you could do a comparison between a Modus 130S versus MMT or similar graphite shaft. I'm intrigued to try graphite shafts.
I get a similar weight. Of course, it's going to be brutal.
Very good, very good. I will skip over to my channel. Gary Satterfield, I've just seen, has put a comment on the bottom. I will come to that shortly. MY Chuck Cook watched Hogan hit balls for hours. His grip was not weak and he played a corkscrew draw. Whatever a corkscrew draw is, my MY, but it sounds wonderful. Lee Roberts, hi guys, keep up the good work. Thank you, Lee. Had to cancel a fit a couple of times with Simon, so I apologise for that. Okay, Lee, no problem. Been so busy. Hopefully get down in the new year. Struggling to square the face on an impulsive Struggling to square the face on an impulsive. Thinking, pardon? Oh yeah, sorry, impulsive ping 10K. Could lead tape in the heel help with that? Cheers, guys.
No, it won't help with that at all. The 10K is actually quite hard to square because for some players, and myself included, because there's a lot of weight at the back of the head, so it actually gears the face open. So if you add lead tape, you're just going to make the head heavier and likely to make it get more behind you. So it might actually, I mean, the irony is a less forgiving head might be easier to square. I've got to use a front-weighted head because otherwise I found it open. So.
Very good, very good. Graham Smith, hi guys. Good evening. Hi guys, what carry gap would you expect between two hybrids, 17 and 21, of the same model and shaft? I want to add a 4 hybrid to carry 20 yards shorter than my 2 hybrid. Should I go for a 1 inch or 1.5 inch shorter shaft?
I mean, that loft difference, you might well see more than 20 yards difference in carry because there's going to be a huge difference in spin. So I'd generally be looking at about 15 yards between a 17 and a 19. So at 21, you could be seeing as much as 30-yard gap in carry because if the spin really kicks up in the higher loft, that's going to stall the flight a heck of a lot. So generally about an inch or so difference in shaft length between those two, depending on the model of head. But you may need to strengthen the loft on the 4 hybrid just to get it to keep up with where you want it to be.
If you're new to the show, we do this every Monday night, 6 p.m. Morecambe and Wise, Laurel and Hardy answer all your questions on golf swing and club equipment. We're doing a live show on the 20th of December if you would like to come and join us. There's over 100 of you watching this evening. I think this could be at one of our biggest halls of viewers, which is great to have you along. Do give us a like and a share while you're here. And if you want to check out more of our content, it's down on our channel, both golf equipment and golf swing. So what are we trying out?
The Modus 130, yes. Now the Modus 130 is actually a 125 gram shaft. Nippon have a couple of profiles. So the Modus 130 and 115 are more sort of midsection stiff, softer in the tip, whereas the 105, 120s are butt end soft, tip stiff. So they swing a little differently. This one doesn't balance quite as tip heavy, but it's designed with a much stiffer midsection in mind. So we'll give this a hit as a reference marker. So you still get out of a shaft this weight, you still get a bit of kick out the tip end. So it's not designed to be a low spin shaft per se, but a little bit more stout in the middle. So let's do one more of those. So yeah, still a bit of response out of it. I'm going to switch to an Axiom 125. Just the MMT is a lot more tip balanced. Well, I've got the MMT in a 105, but I'm going to use the Axiom because it's a more similar dead weight. And actually with graphite at this weight, there's a lot more shaft material. So the wall thickness of the graphite is much, much greater. So they can actually play a lot more stout from a stiffness point of view. And which is why a lot of the heavier composites and graphites in the past will have felt quite dead. So Axiom swings a little bit more on the tip end, designed with some Velour material, so to really kind of tighten up the tip section, reduce the torque, and be a really crisp feeling shaft. So very different sound because it has that rotational stiffness and the stiffer tip, a slightly kind of higher pitch, crisper note, a little tighter feel. In terms of, there's 0.1 of a yard between that and the previous shot. So it's not like one's going to create massively more distance. But
you're another one like that. You want to get those straight in the bag.
They're too heavy for me. But very stable feel. But yeah, it's very,
you got to get
very
those in the bag. You got to get those in the bag.
0.1 between those.
You got to get those in the bag.
No, mine are going too well. But in terms of
that's because you don't want to spend more money. The wife's putting the purse strings in, isn't she? That's why you don't.
No, sure, I get it's tax deductible. But yeah, Axioms are an interesting shaft. When you get to the heavier weights, they swing a little bit more evenly balanced. But for someone who's got a lot of load on the shaft, they can feel really crisp and tight compared to some of the steels. But they are very dear, so that's a consideration as well.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves there. 79.3, 79.4, 79.3. I mean, some would say
And they were
robotic.
different shafts.
Some would say robotic. Well,
Need oiling, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back
You know what that is? That's good coaching.
Well, I didn't want to say it. I was waiting for someone to bring it into the fore. So, S. Forbes, a question for Simon, which I think I know the answer to. Well, why are you asking it then? No, just joking, just joking. Is there any way to swing weight clubs at home? Recently was given a 4 driving iron, which I'm trying to match swing weight wise to my current sets.
So unless you've got a swing weight machine at home, the best way of doing it is gradually adding a little bit of lead tape to the head to get it to feel, hopefully if it starts a bit lighter, to get it to feel the same to swing. Swing weight is a kind of essentially a scale of numbers and letters, which is relatively random, but essentially gives a baseline reference marker on balance point. Broadly speaking, it doesn't quite do that, but in a static way it does it. So best way of doing it is to keep adding a little bit of tape to the point where it starts to feel a little bit heavier than what you have, and then take it back off. And if you like where your current irons are, find that point where the two feel the same to swing. That ultimately is the best way of doing it if you haven't got a swing weight scale.
Very good. This is on the back of the question that Lewis Pounds asked about irons that are going to have a bit more spin and launch. He says he currently hits 4 down with a 7 iron, spin around 4,000 with a G430 irons, carry is 140, total 165, apex 40 feet.
Okay, so that's a problem because you don't have anywhere near enough spin, but the G430s are a strong lofted head. So get some loft onto that. You know, if they've not been, they're called retrospect, which is a little bit 1 or 2 degrees weaker. I mean, a G437 iron as standard is going to be 31 degrees, 31 degrees. And really ideally at that kind of spin, you want to get it up to 33 if you can. But generally, unfortunately, the less forgiving heads tend to have more loft. So it depends how much margin of error you want. But yeah, you can get them bent a little bit weaker, but the problem is that the structure of the head takes spin off as well. So that is a very low spin for a 7 iron. And play a spinnier ball, that's another way of doing it. Something like with irons, the Strix on the Z-Star Diamond spins quite a lot with irons, and that'll get your spin rate up a bit as well. But yeah, that's very low for a 7 iron.
Joshua Skipworth asks, what drill can I use to get the club shaft coming down more towards the slot instead of steep and above my arms? I have a down the line camera replay set up and can't get the shaft remotely towards my right arm. That will mainly be because your face is open to your path, first of all. So make your face close to your path. I would go check out your grip. I know it's boring, but if you put your hands on the golf club in the wrong manner to start with, you will want to square the face up with your path. You can't change your path before you get your face orientated properly to your path. That being if you want to hit a draw. So make your face stronger in your golf swing. Check your grip out. And then go check out my video on shallow. It's the thumbnail. It's my 3 videos ago. It says shallow on the front of it. Go watch that, and there is a drill that will absolutely give you a more inside and shallow path on the way down. But you approach it more from the inside with an open face. It's either shanks feel for you or big slices. So beware.
I think you've got more layers to yourself than that person. I wouldn't call you shallow.
Stu Brew, the right shoulder through impact. Does it feel like you use it for leverage as you would do when wrestling, arm wrestling? What a great analogy. Absolutely. Absolutely do that. But when you're arm wrestling, you tend to get your shoulder forwards of your arm. You would want to feel like the leverage is coming from a push, not a pull. So think about, use the right shoulder like that, but see it from a push orientation and not a pull orientation. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
You like wrestling growing up?
A Big Daddy?
Oh, let's go back. James was a massive wrestling fan.
Was he?
Still is. Yeah.
Is he? Yeah. Can be seen wrestling in the car park on a Sunday evening with himself. So Phil Langley notes, Shane, Peter Murphy, Simon, what do you consider when fitting planar versus non-planar swings?
Ultimately, I'm fitting someone more for the way they move and deliver the club. So I'm looking at sequencing and synchronization. So every player has, to a point, their own plane, whether it's steeper or shallower. And you're either more rotational or you're more kind of, you either pull on the handle or you turn your body through. So we're just looking to get the club complementing how you move and build your speed. There are some technique elements that I would then generally, a well-fitted club will just show you what you're doing, broadly speaking. That's what we're trying to achieve, so that what you feel you've done is what is reflected in the shot pattern. And then we can hand over to a coach who knows what he's doing to then get everything lined up. Or help you get everything lined up. But it's not quite as simple as fitting to a plane. You're looking at how is someone putting the club in, how is someone moving the club from the top of the backswing through the ball, which bits of their body, and how does that then synchronize with the club rather than just the line that they're swinging along.
Phil Langley, I was fitted for my irons and wedges with the same shaft, TTXP 105. I hit the wedges really well. Based on your earlier response, should my iron shafts be lighter? Thanks, Phil.
Not always. There are plenty of times where we will match shaft weight from irons through into wedges, but there are also plenty of times where we go a little heavier in wedges than irons. So there isn't a definite answer one way or other. However, if you're timing your wedges really well and you feel like you've got to work hard to get the best out of your irons, then chances are that a slightly lighter shaft in the irons may be will make it easier to get the best out of them, but it's not an absolute either way. It's very much player specific.
Gary Satterfield, no press-ups, okay. How about a little competition one day? Loser has to take shots of tequila. Just a thought. Great show, guys. That could get loose, Gary, and nobody wants to see a loose Simon.
We didn't say
and
when.
Stuart.
We could do shots another time.
Yeah, fair dues, fair dues, fair dues.
Think up the comp.
Yeah, Papa B, just one that I'm
golf
winner,
related.
Yeah. Papa B, hello young men. I know there are a lot of retail wedge grinds available, but can you explain when it makes sense to get custom grinds, and are they only for a lob wedge? You're the best. Thank you.
I mean, grind-wise, I'd say that there are a lot of most of the time you can find the grind for a wedge, like something like let's take Vokey, because everyone knows the Vokeys have a lot of options. So what we're doing when we do a custom grind is taking the closest grind that's available and fine-tuning it. If you're having to do a lot of grinding, you're only doing it to try and take weight off the head.
So that was a childish snigger on grinding, but carry on.
Well, you'd know. So it's telling you about this Saturday night. We're more kind of fine-tuning than anything. So you might take, for example, on the Vokeys, take the peak off the top of a D grind or an M grind to sort of smooth it off a little bit. So if you're having to do a lot more than that, then chances are you're starting in the wrong place. Other than if you're going longer, you might go to we've done kind of K grind and ground it down to an M to try and take as much weight off as possible. But there are an awful lot of options out there that you can find one that suits you, and then if there's a fine tune to make, then that's getting into the minutiae of it, really.
Don Keek, question about my driver shaft. I have a hazardous smoke green 6.0 65 GR AI Smoke Max. It still makes me giggle. Well, everyone knows what they're using. I mean, I wouldn't have a clue what I've got in my bag. And I feels like that I swing it slower, not as easy as my Callaway mini driver with a Denali 6.0 60 gram. I mean, I'm just so impressed by people knowing so much about the equipment. Fantastic.
So what was the question?
I didn't know. I was just reading.
So the word Denali just seemed to have you all off.
So question about my driver shaft. I have a hazardous smoke green.
Yeah.
And I feels like that I swing it slower as my Callaway mini driver with the Denali 6.0 60 GR.
So, I mean, the mini driver is shorter, so it may just be that you're more efficient at the shorter length. There are plenty of players who don't build speed, at a quicker proportion with irons than they would be with the driver, and just don't build speed the same way as the shaft weight goes up. So, it may just be that the shorter length suits you more, and you're able to be more efficient with it. Longer isn't always faster in the same way that lighter isn't always faster. So it's a case of finding what suits you best, and if you're more efficient with the shorter length, then stick with that.
Roger Nater 3000. That's a good one, isn't it? Hi Stuart, I've been watching
American Pie.
Hi Stuart, I've been watching many videos of my golf swing. Golf is improving, so thanks, you're welcome. I'm struggling to hit a fade unless I weaken my left hand grip, which gives me a weak shot. Please help. Add a little bit of cup in your backswing and then unload it. That would be an easy way of doing it. Don't change the grip. You can work around a strong grip. Just add a little bit more cup in your backswing with your left hand. That will give you a little bit of a fade. I'm actually bringing out a video. I don't know, there's some chuckling going on.
There's some childish behaviour going on about cupping.
There's a video coming out on Wednesday.
We have a crowd, it's going to be a nightmare.
On Wednesday on fades and draws. I talk about how to hit fades and draws. And that might be the way to go. So stay tuned for that. MY, hi Simon, biggest difference between Modus 120 versus 115, and is 105 the same profile as 115?
105 and 120 are the same profile, just different weights. And the difference between the 115 and the 120 is that the 120 is softer here and stiff in the tip. The principle being for dispersion was the design. So the balance point is more down the bottom end and you'll get more feel out of the handle end. And the 115 is stiffer in the mid and upper midsection, but softer in the tip. So more of a mid-spin, lower launch mid-spin, designed to have a little bit more of that spin rate. Slightly higher balance, but will feel a little tighter through the midsection, but very similar weights.
Very good. Stephen Crossley, a great help, Stuart, would be the first part of the downswing and laying the club off shoulders moving forward, not to the side. Sorry, Stuart, know what I mean. Rubbish trying to explain. No problem, Stephen. As long as you're taking part, that's what matters. Thank you for your questions. Van House, hi guys. I have a QI10 core 10.5 degree driver lofted down 3 clicks with an ADVF 6X shaft. I hit up on it 5 to 7 degrees and 4-5 from the inside. Oof. With 112 club speed, spin seems on the higher side at 2.7, 3,000.
That's because you're catching it low and heel. So that's, I mean, depending, you haven't said your launch angle, it could be launch angle, but if you're that much up on it, that's there's a second part to it. Is there a second part to the question? So what was the... would a different head help? In principle, yes. Assuming I've not missed.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah. So the next part of the question was: would a different head be the only change to make shafts change, or would you accept the higher spin?
So the shaft. I mean, the shaft's going to be more about your timing and ability to control face angle and therefore dispersion left and right. So if that's solid, then this is about head style because. You're either catching it low and heel side and that's creating the spin, which the QI10 isn't brilliant with, or there's just too much flight. So there will be heads like, more weight forward without being a knuckleball. The danger of that much angle of attack is that you could end up with a very low spin action, which you don't want to go to. So it could all be that something like a, say, GT3 could be pretty good for that. Ping the LS, that's also quite a good option because it's not a dangerously low spin head, but chances are going down in loft depending on your launch angle will help just to bring that spin rate down.
James, have we got a microphone for Jack? And then use the microphone. Yeah, perfect. Let's do that. Let's bring Jack on. We are here. We've got loads of questions. We're not going to be able to get through them all tonight, but we will continue with the questions and answers as they come. But we'd love to introduce you to our latest fitter here at Precision Golf. He's a superstar. I mean, I don't really know him, but he feels like a superstar. Do you know what I mean? He's got that kind of superstar element about him. Bring on
in the middle there, yeah.
Jack.
Young Jack.
Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team.
Been in the bay with me all day today, poor chap.
Have you found it?
Yeah, very enlightening. Definitely a lot to learn from Simon. But no, it was good. There was definitely different people that we seen, different levels of abilities, and it was just interesting kind of understanding people's kind of like previous injuries that we went through, kind of what level they're playing at, just understanding what their goals are, what they want out of their equipment. So it was interesting.
You smell beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Whereabouts
I've been in here all day as well.
Whereabouts in Scotland are you from?
Glasgow.
Fantastic.
Glasgow.
It's nice to have a bit of Scotland in here, isn't
That's
it?
it.
I mean, I think it's probably the only thing.
Oh, it is. It's where golf started, isn't it?
It's the only
basically.
thing that we've been missing, really. There's a bit of Scottish. So tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously a pro.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up playing your golf?
So I grew up playing at a golf club in the northwest of Glasgow called Windy Hill. Well, originally I was at a course called Hilton Park, which I've been back to recently. But was at Windy Hill for years.
Clues in the name.
Yeah, it's on a hill and it's windy. But
They really went all out on the name, didn't they?
But great course to grow up at. Grew up playing a lot of golf with my friends. Golf was more of a hobby to me growing up. I was a big footballer, runner as well. But always enjoyed playing golf. And it wasn't until I was about 17 that I decided to actually pursue it. Once I started playing at like a county level and things like that. And then went to the University of Highlands and Islands for 4 years, did a professional golf degree there, just graduated back in September, and spent a few years on placements at golf clubs as like assistants, like Crail and Loch Lomond Golf Club, and then spent this past year working as assistant at Renfrew Golf Club, which was brilliant. But yeah, then got the opportunity to come down here, had the interview back in September, and yeah, no, I've been looking forward to starting for a while now, so yeah, it's been good to get going.
And you're living in my old stomping ground,
That's
Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic town for going out.
Yeah.
And the tennis in the summertime.
Of course.
Going to be a brilliant place to live.
No,
so
I'm looking
no
forward to it.
early shifts maybe on a Saturday for Jack. I'm joking.
He'll be all right. He's young.
Exactly.
Well, what's a hangover?
So obviously, I mean, I think we take it for granted. Coming in here is an overwhelming experience. I think. I think when you see what we're dealing with here, how have you kind of tempered that with? Obviously, I'm probably quite excited about working here. Yeah. How are you going into this whole experience of learning how we do things here at Precision?
Just very open-minded, knowing that I've got a lot of stuff that I need to learn, but over the course of the next probably couple of months, just get used to building my own process, picking things from everybody that works here, learning a bit, and just making sure that I've got a lot of notes on equipment, and just try and make the best decisions that I can, but we'll see how it goes. But I think I've got a good knowledge on products, but like I was saying to you earlier on, it's probably like that, whereas we're here you need to be there. But yeah,
and your dad's a keen golfer as well.
Yeah, I know, but he just kind of got off his phone, clearly. Then
already asked a couple of questions tonight. Hello, Dad, can't wait to meet you. He's coming down for the...
He's coming down for the live show,
for the live show as well.
He's got a season ticket, I think.
Brilliant. Well, Jack, listen.
I was going to say, what's been encouraging your first day here with us is you already seeing things from the right perspective. It's the kind of thing that I think we sometimes take for granted. The way we do things and have done for 20 years, it's very different than you'd get elsewhere. So actually, some of the challenge for anyone starting is actually seeing it from the other perspective. Obviously, you've done a bit of coaching as well, and so the instinct is to look at the swing, whereas actually you've got to look at what the clubs are doing to the player first,
which is very
different.
Very different.
But yeah, good first day.
Yeah. Well, listen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you
A
very
bit
much.
impromptu.
That's it.
But hopefully...
I didn't get my hair and makeup done. But,
well, James is always in the wings. He's always got hair and makeup. Are you going to come and join us on another live? Full hour?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Stay tuned for that.
That's it.
Jack, thanks so much.
You.
Really appreciate it. It's so wonderful to meet Jack. I'm meeting for the first time on Thursday. Cracking guy. Obviously passionate about golf.
Yeah.
I think you can't live in Scotland and not be passionate about the game, right? And I think
there aren't many. Let's put it that way.
No, exactly. We'll just get into a couple more before we end the show. We've got another minute or so left. Let's pick one randomly. Who have we got? John Dorensky. Hi guys, as usual, good show. But never mind about Morecambe and Wise. What about
Stella and Waldorf?
Flopalop and Weed, flower pot men. I know I saw another one up here. This is what the.
I'm not doing the voice of that one.
This is what the Yorkshire Blade said. This is what the Yorkshire Blade, and I think we'll end the show on this. When Jack comes, I suggest having a challenge pathway between Jack Stewart and Bertie Basil's Licorice Squares. That's you.
just because I dress brightly. I'd
Brilliant,
take that as a compliment.
But, no, you should.
I think what we
should,
did
absolutely.
was that we need to get Jack to say the word "bustle" when he comes on next as well.
100%, 100%, 100%. Listen, we've run out of time. There's been so many questions, and
Yeah, purple burglar arm. That's the one. Yeah.
there's been more of you watching this evening than we've ever had in all of our time with this Monday night show. Well, hopefully we're doing something right that's keeping you entertained. It's going to be a long, dark winter, and hopefully you can join us a little bit more going forwards. As I say, we've got the live show on Friday the 20th. We've got the Costa Navarino next year in May with 4 teams: Roger Chapman, me, Henny, and Lewis.
Well done. Yeah.
I've been practicing that all week.
Got it right first
all
time.
week.
Yeah.
I am not here next week or the week after. So, Simon, you're going to be with some...
Next week, Nick Scrudden is back on.
Fantastic.
And then the following week, Lewis is going to join me.
Oh, fantastic. So, a different wingman.
And Jack probably as well.
I'm going to be tuning in and heckling from abroad. I look forward to that. Busy week?
Yeah, this week really busy. Obviously, Jack's going to be with me in the Bay a lot. And actually, it's busy week coming up. So,
Yeah,
all
fantastic.
good. All good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us. All of the questions are really greatly appreciated. We really enjoy these Monday nights.
Yeah.
They're really getting
They're going
up some
quicker and
momentum.
quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your support on the channel as well. Do give it a like, give it a share. And I won't see you next week, but Simon will be here with Nick. Get tuned in with your questions, and we'll see you Monday, 6 p.m. next week.